So let's go ahead and start using Mesh Fusion to build the tread work for our tooling. So if you'll go ahead and just load the L09_Fusion tooling start object, it should be in the lesson 9 assets directory. And you will get a correct scale tooling object here. And if you notice down here where it says trim elements, I'll turn that on, you can see I've already created all the trim elements that you will need for this project. Now, that said, I'm not going to go into any detail on how I created these. These are just very straightforward direct modeling objects and using Modo's direct modeling tools, with the exception of a couple of them here, like the bottom trim object, which is a mesh operation, as well as this guy up front here that we're using as a it's a little trim object that'll cut a groove in the treads. So that is also procedural. So I will go through those two objects for you, and we'll build those from scratch. So before we actually get started modeling, there's a couple of setup things that I like to check. First of all, I like to, when we're working on something inverted like this, and I am working on this sole, the bottom of the sole here, upside down. So the y-axis is pointing away from me. And in doing so, I like to have trackball rotation on because it just makes it a lot easier. So I'll hit the options button, bring up the viewport options here, and right down at the bottom where it says trackball rotation, I set that to yes. Okay, that's going to make your life a little easier when it's rotating the object around. The other thing I like to do is go into my preferences, and I want to make sure that my units, which is right down here, is set to metric. And I like to set it to millimeters when I'm working at this scale. So that's the only two things I need to really set up. All right, so what we need to do is create a Fusion item. And I'm going to go down to the Fusion tab here, the Edge tab. And with my the tooling selected here, I'm going to go to New Fusion. And of course, I'm going to call it Tooling. Okay, and I'm going to set my strip width to 1 millimeter. All right, so that's going to be my default width. And working at this scale, this will probably work out best for us. If you go larger, you're risking the Fusion object breakdown. Now you can edit those curves or these strips individually later on, but as a default, I prefer to set my strip widths a little smaller than larger. All right, and subdivision surfaces 2, smoothing strips 5, everything else is fine. So I'm going to don't need edge weights for this particular model, so I'm going to click OK. All right, so a couple other things. I'm going to jump over to the tooling Fusion object that we just created here. And let's see, I'm going to go to the very top here. I'm going to enable embossing, which we'll do a little bit later. I'm going to set this to deferred update right up there. Go down to the bottom here, and I'm going to set this to airtight final with parts. And weight type, we're not using edge weights, so I don't have to really worry about that. And I think that is really all I need to do for that for right now.